Hello Nigeria, that's my motherland.
I'd like to introduce you to Isaac. I've known Isaac for a few months, but also knew him in Nigeria on the LNG project in lovely Lagos and Port Harcourt. And he's going to give us a talk to us today about Nigerian culture, where it comes from, and just to put some perceived thinking on what Nigeria is more than what it does say in the paper. And my time I spent in Nigeria, I've changed my whole mindset of who they are. Okay, so I'll pass it over to you, Isaac. It's your stage.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Welcome to an African presentation. Look, before we go any further, I'd like to thank you for sitting here, listening to me this morning. We've got a lot to talk about, and these subjects are very passionate. I feel very passionate about them. They're very close to my heart. So I just hope I can carry you along as we delve into it. Now, Lawrence has said something about me, but what he forgot, or conveniently forgot to mention, was the fact that he gave me a tap on the shoulder about 2 or 3 weeks ago and said, well, why don't you come talk to the real Australians? And I said, well, look, I've been looking for the real Australians for the past 9 years. I've been in this one. I haven't seen them. And he said, well, I know where they are, and you get the opportunity to meet them. And look, I've been talking to Shelley, and straight away I can tell that, yeah, this is where the real Australians are. So once again, thank you for coming to listen to this presentation. Now, Iceberg, what is that? Apart from the fact that we know that about 100 or so years ago, an iceberg sank the best engineered ship in the world, and that is the Titanic. Now, when we see an iceberg, we see what we see on the surface. There's no way we can tell how big it is underneath the water, how jagged it is, how large it is, how smooth it is. We can't tell. And that's who we are as human beings. We look at people in the surface. What does it look like? What color is it? How does it talk? What accent does it have? And then we make a judgment on that basis. We don't know whether, okay, deep down maybe he's gay or lesbian or, he's a nice person or whatever. We usually don't have time to find that out. And of course, as human beings, until we begin to spend time with people, we don't get to see that aspect of their life. And when he spoke about iceberg, because we both are trained in the shell world, and iceberg is something that we consider as a very, very key parameter in relationship management. So I'm very happy to be here. Now, obviously I've come to address you. I've not come to speak to myself. And like I said, this is a very, very passionate subject that we'll be talking about here today. I know John. John is a personal friend. He's a Canadian Trade Commissioner to Queensland, and I know he's worked in Nigeria. So I know certain things that will tickle his interest. I know Lawrence Simon has been a business associate for months now. I think going to a year now. So I know he's worked in Nigeria. I know the things I have to tell him about Nigeria that will tickle his interest. Now, then we have the rest that I haven't met, that I'm meeting for the first time. And I don't want to go on a tangent. I would like to be given the opportunity to actually calibrate what I'm going to say today for the benefit of the audience. So, in saying that, I'd just like a quick show of hand. Does anybody, apart from what you're saying in the media, does anybody actually know a little bit more about Nigeria, apart from what you see in the media, apart from the scammers, apart from the Boko Haram, apart from that, does any other person know anything about Nigeria? No? Okay. So that's very good. That is excellent. So now we're talking. So that's the introduction. Now I know where you're coming from, I know what the background is, and I know precisely what to calibrate my discussion of today. Now, introducing myself. I know Lawrence already mentioned my name. My name is Isaac. I'm the global president of a startup company that just debuted about 2 weeks ago. And the company is going places. Now, at the end of this presentation, I'll give you my card. What we don't do is we don't act when the business environment is good. Because when the business environment is good, anybody can make profit. Now, we exist to help business survive, to make profit in a difficult business environment. And of course, we all know that that's where we are now. Australia is facing its GFC, and it's a roller coaster. we don't know where the bottom is. So we exist to make sure that businesses remain viable in situations like this. Now, a bit about myself. I'm a Nigerian, as you can see, very colorful, right? This is how we do it. And of course, I'm an Australian as well. You can see my Australian badge. I became an Australian in 2009, and I love this country. My background was an electrical engineer. I started life as an electrical engineer on a gas plant back home in Nigeria. Worked my way up from the north on the boat. Became a reliability engineer, did process control. Moved around, and then in 2005, I was tapped on the shoulder to join the design team in London. So I found myself in London working for about 2 years on the design and engineering of a brand new LNG plant. Now, I don't know how much you know about how the gas process works, but you've got the gas process itself, but you've got what you call utilities, because this gas processing plant, we need power, we need water, we need all that. We need air, which are not the core gas processing activity. So we have what we call utilities. And the utilities aspect of this project was awarded to a company in Paris. So I ended up in Paris, beautiful country, for about 18 months, just sucking in the beauty. It's great. And of course, during that project, I had opportunities to work in Italy, went to Germany, came to Japan, went to Malaysia, went to US, because a lot of the original equipment manufacturers are based in all these places. So we had to travel to all these places to make sure that the equipment they are giving to us actually meet the specification that we've handed down to them. So having done all that, the tenure ended and I was asked to come back home. I said, well, look, I've been around now, I'm going back home. I want to enjoy this for longer. And of course, I couldn't get that message across back to them at home. So I decided I had to take matters into my hand, and so began my sojourn to the beautiful land of Australia. And if you think back, you remember that in 2007, the economy of China was really booming. Things were going great. They can't have enough of Australian product, which of course had a knock-on effect on the fact that we don't have enough people to actually run the Australian industries. So I applied to come in as an engineer, and I actually got my permanent residency before I left home. I remember when I got that permanent residency, I was a bit lost as to what do I do now. So I remember taking a 10-day leave, traveling to and picking a house on the internet. Perth, that's where we go. And we came to Perth for 10 days, and the family loved it. The wife loved it, and said, well, look, if you all love it, then I love it too. Then went back home, resigned, and then we came to Perth. So that's how our life in Australia started. So we're in Perth for 5 years, worked for a number of companies in the oil and gas industry, and then had the opportunity to work in the water industry as well, and mining. And then just 4 years ago, there was a particular project which was happening for the first time in the whole world. It's a technology that's never been done anywhere before, and it was happening right there in Bilowila. And I said, as an engineer, until you've been involved in something that has never happened before, you have not left your imprint on the sand of time. So I joined this project in Bilowila. I worked on that project for 2.5 years. It's called Calite Oxyfoil Project, where what we're doing basically was because there's been a lot of talk against coal, greenhouse gases and all that. And there are some companies that only exist based on coal, all right? And they also want to prove that coal can actually continue to be a veritable source of energy without the environmental aspect. So what we did in a nutshell was we used coal to generate power, and then we capture the flue gas that is supposed to go into the atmosphere and cause greenhouse effect. We capture that, bring it down, turn it into liquid, and then put it back in the ground. So that's what the project was all about. First of its kind in the whole world. People were coming from the US, from every part of the world, and you can see the wow on their face, seeing what we're doing there. So at the height of the project, we were saving 70 tons of liquid CO2 per day, which we then sold to the food industry and to the fire extinguishers industry. That was a demonstration project. It was just a 30 megawatt. We were there to prove that technically it was possible. And of course, you all know what was happening during the labor period. It was carbon tax and all that. Commercially, it was not feasible. it won't be feasible until the carbon tax becomes at least $80 per ton. So I came to Brisbane, and the in thing is the coal seam gas. So I became a consultant in the coal seam gas industry. So I was part of the team that built QGC, and up until about 4 weeks ago, I was working on the Santos LNG project in Glasgow from out here. You know, came to Australia, did my first masters in WA. I'm finishing the second masters now. So that's a bit about me. Now, let's get to the reason why we're here today. Africa. I'll be talking about a few myths that has gone on for so long that is now sounding like facts to people. And I'll talk about some facts that have laid buried underground for so long that people actually thought that they are myths. And then I'll talk about Nigeria, my motherland, the facts that are very peculiar to that country. I'll talk about the culture, I'll talk about the economy, and I'll talk about the sport. And I'll say a little bit on the parallels that we have with Australia as a nation, because we have something in common. And I'm here today to answer any questions, any misgivings that you might have about the country. You ask me, then I'll do my best to explain. If there's anything I can't explain here, I'll definitely get your details and get back to you. For a very long time, we in Africa have always thought this symbol is very peculiar. There's no coincidence in life. Now, this symbol, if you look at it, for a very, very long time, we've always said, well, this actually reminds somebody of a gun. Yeah, look at it, just, look at it, it's a gun, right? You see the horn of Africa there? It's the top part of the gun. I mean, I don't shoot guns, so I don't know what it's called, but that's a part of the gun. And look at here, that's actually where the trigger is. And did you notice anything peculiar about that trigger? That's where Nigeria is. So for a very long time, we've always said, okay, this could either be a good omen or a bad omen. And if you look at what's been happening in the past 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, we've come to the conclusion that it's actually a good omen, because recovery of the world economy is going to start from here. And this is exactly the trigger point. And I'll tell you why that is so today. Now, this is Africa. Africa has been colonized by so many other countries. You can see the spear in the bomb, in the eyes. They come to take all the natural resources, prefer it and all that. But you know what? Africa as a continent is very resilient. We've survived all that And they put chains on our neck and make us slaves and all that. With all them whites, on their white horses, sharing us apart. But that's Africa for you. I mean, if the situation is reversed, Africa will do the same. So, no apology for that. If I was in the shoe of the Western world, and I see a continent that was in that much darkness at that time, of course I will exploit it. That's why we're human. But we've got cultures. We've got history. And those histories are very rich and diverse. What is Nigeria? See, the name Nigeria was actually taken from a river called River Niger, and you see it in another slide. There's a river that runs across, 2 rivers actually, across the entire surface of Nigeria. One comes this way, one comes this way. One is called River Niger, one is River Benue, and they meet at the middle, and they both drain into the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the popular belief is that the name Nigeria actually originated from that Niger River. Now, how did the Niger River actually come to be? It's still very uncertain. Who named that river Niger? We don't know. This is the Nigerian flag. It's green, white, green. The green standing for agriculture. Nigeria is very rich in agriculture. And the white standing for peace. And you say, well, look, where's the peace? There's Boko Haram everywhere. Tell me where the peace is in the world. If you show me a place where there is peace in the world, I'll show you 500 places where there are no peace. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. It's what is happening right now. This is our coat of arms. Now, a lot of people look at this and, they just see the animals, they see, okay, the eagle and all that. Our flag is bicolor, green and white. Our emblem, that's the coat of arms. And our anthem is Arise, you compatriots, because we had a lot of compatriots that actually fought for the independence of that continent and of that country. Our animal is the eagle, and our bird is the black-crowned crane. Our flower is Horsus spectabilis, and our sport is football. We love soccer. Now, what the coat of arms stands for, the black sheet actually represents Nigeria's fertile soil. While the two horses on each side represent dignity. Nigerians are a very dignified set of people, irrespective of what we see in the media these days. Now, the country itself is divided into 36 states and one federal capital territory, which is called Abuja. Now, Abuja is to Nigeria what Canberra is to Australia. It's the seat of power. And we have Lagos that happens to be the commercial nerve center, commercial capital of Nigeria. Now, Lagos is to Nigeria what Sydney is to Australia. So you get the point. Now, these 36 states are further divided into 774 local councils. I mean, we know how many councils we have in Queensland. Just imagine the whole of Nigeria having 774 of such. Now, just before we go any further, Nigeria became independent in 1960. And as at independence, we only had 3 states. So you can imagine between 1960 and 2011, we've grown from, the development has been so rapid that those 3 states have been split into 36 states. So you can begin to imagine that this is not a stagnant country. This is a country that is constantly evolving. In terms of how we're bordered, because we have a very close relationship with our neighbors, we have the Republic of Benin in the west, we have the Chad in the north, and Cameroon in the east, or Chad and Cameroon in the east, and Niger in the north, sorry. Its coast in the south lies on the Gulf of Guinea. That's it right there in the Atlantic Ocean. And this is where our soil fertilities actually come from. This is the delta, all right? All the rivers flow down into the Atlantic Ocean through this place. So here it's a swamp because they deposit all the minerals that they're carrying from the hinterland, So when they want to enter the river, they slow down. And once they slow down, all those nutrients, everything gets deposited. So that's been happening for millions and millions of years. So that area is very, very rich in minerals, in oil, in gas, agriculture here is, they don't need to use fertilizer. Everything there is naturally potent. Now, Nigeria is often referred to as the giant of Africa due to its large population and economy. Gentlemen, Queensland is about 4 times the size of Nigeria. And our population in Nigeria is 170 million as at the last count. So you can imagine the population density. And that's where our strength lies. Because if you have a business where you have a product that sells for just 1 cent, imagine being able to sell that within a population of 174 million. And then you can begin to imagine the multiplication factor, and the fact that anything you do in that country is like turns to gold. Anything you do succeeds. There's a very, very powerful strength in that population. The city of Lagos that I spoke about before has been the commercial nerve center of the country, has been the commercial capital, which is equivalent of Sydney. As at the last count was 18 million. Now, if you look at Queensland, which is 4 times the size of the whole country, and we're just barely crossing maybe 2-point-something million. So you can imagine, you can begin to imagine the difference and the dynamism and the fact that you go out and you meet hundreds and thousands of people, and the fact that there is no way people won't bump into each other and say hi, because we are all in each other's faces all the time. One thing you realize about the population of Japan at the moment, because if you look at their GDP, the Japan GDP is actually falling, because the majority of the population now is in the old age. The average age in Japan now, as we speak, is about 60. Yeah. So policy always has a double-edged sword. And when you have a government that is not thinking long term in terms of policy, it can actually hurt the economy, and that's exactly what is happening in Japan now. But Nigeria, apart from being the most populous country in Africa and the 7th most populous country in the world, it has one of the largest population of youth in the world. So they're very, very vibrant, and you can imagine what that does to entertainment and sport. We have over 500 ethnic groups, 500 languages, right? People only know about 3 main ones. Okay, I've got a Nigerian in the room whose language I don't understand. I mean, to understand it, we all have to speak English. That's a common language. So you move from literally from one area, you move 1 kilometer away, you don't understand the language they speak there. So that's how diverse we are. But I'm only going to talk to you about the modern Nigeria, which of course you can relate to, because it has its origins in the British colonization during the late 19th to early 20th century. So we'll look at that one, and we'll look at the economy, and this is where the fun really begins. And a lot of people don't know this, but in 2004, which was just last year, Nigeria's economy, that's the GDP, became the largest in Africa, worth more than $500 billion. It overtook South Africa to become the world's 21st largest economy. For a country that all we hear about is scammers, I mean, that's something. 21st largest economy in the world. All right? This was last year. We're not talking about pre-GFC. We're talking about 2014. Our debt to GDP ratio is only about 11%, which is about 8% below the 2012 ratio. And by 2050, Nigeria is expected to become one of the world's top 20 economies. I said that before. The country's oil reserves have played a very major role in its growing wealth and influence. Nigeria is considered to be an emerging market by the World Bank and has been identified as a regional power in Africa. There's no doubt about that. Everything revolves around Nigeria when you talk about Africa. And to a large extent, it's just living to that, it's just, being true to that trigger point that we talked about before. So you can begin to see that, look, this is not just me. That symbol really means something. In terms of GDP in 2012, Nigeria was ranked number 30, and Nigeria is the United States' largest trading partner in sub-Saharan Africa. We supply 1/5 of United States oil. So we're quite strategic to United States policies. And IMF actually projects an 8% growth in the Nigeria economy in 2011, but we surpassed that. And if you think about Chinese growth, Chinese was growing at 12%. And we in Australia were jubilating because we can sell all our iron ore, we can sell all our coal, and ship all our garden to them. I mean, that's another country in Africa that is going at the same rate as China, but nobody is actually thinking about it. Now, but now that China is beginning to slow down, I think the investors in Australia, it's high time we started thinking about other places. And of course, I can recommend Nigeria any day. In February 2011, according to the Citigroup, Nigeria will get the highest average GDP growth in the world between 2010 and 2050. Which means if you average GDP growth between 2010 and 2050, Nigeria will be one of the fastest growing economy. During the oil boom of the 1970s, Nigeria accumulated a significant foreign debt to finance major infrastructural investment. I mean, that's just the way it is. All right. There's a book, The Confession of the Economic Hitman, right? That I read. I mean, the way this thing works is very easy. They send the hitmen, the economic hitmen, to the governments all around the world under the guise of CIA or whatever, KGB or whatever. And they go to the government and say, well, look, you've got all these bushes, you could link this place and this place with a big bridge and all that. And you know what? We can actually do it for you at no cost. We borrow you all the money you need. Of course, if I was in government, of course, I would accept that kind of offer. That's really generous, so I don't have to worry, so you do everything for me. Oh, yeah. So, the money will move from the Bank of America So the company that we work with, they tell you that the condition is that well, our company come and do the construction. Of course, yeah, of course. You guys can do it up to quality. We want you to do it. Now, the money will move from the bank in America to the account of the company that will do the construction in America. We never really see the money in Africa. All right? And we have to pay that debt. That's precisely the way it's always worked. And that's the way it's still working till today. That's how come a lot of the world countries are so much heavily indebted. But they never really saw the real money. They didn't spend it. That's just the way things work, unfortunately. But in 2005, because I think Nigerians, like I said, were very smart, we saw through this smoke screen, and in 2005, we negotiated and with what we call our Paris Club creditors. And during that negotiation, we reached an agreement in which Nigeria repurchased its debt at a discount of approximately 60%. So we used part of our oil profit to pay the residual 40%. So freeing up at least $1.145 billion annually for poverty reduction programs. So we made history in April 2006 by becoming the first African country to completely pay off its debt. It's estimated at about $30 billion go to the Paris Club. We paid off our debt in 2006. And of course, the effort was redoubled to pull us back into debt. So let's talk about agriculture, because we don't talk about the economy of Nigeria without talking about the agriculture. And let me tell you something here, because I think this is important. When Lawrence introduced me, one thing he forgot to say was when he tapped me on the shoulder 2 weeks ago that I'll be speaking with you, we said, all right, I'll start the preparation last Monday. That 1 week should be enough for me to, pull the site together. Only for me to be called from the office on that Monday because my son was very ill in school. Went, pick him up, and then straight to the emergency at Lady Silento. And that puts pay to any opportunity of putting the slides together. These slides that I'm talking to you about now were put together between 12 midnight this morning and 5 a.m. So that's why some of these things I talked about, you can't see them here, but they're in my head. Right? I didn't have time to start typing and putting them down. So that will explain why you see some of the slides are blank. So let's talk about Nigeria agriculture. 70% of Nigerians are employed in agriculture. Quite unlike what it is here, where a large percentage of the employable workforce are in the energy industry. And you see what happens. Just a little blip in the energy economy, everybody is running at us together. I mean, if you have been following the story, you will know how many people that these companies have been letting go of for the past few weeks. It's not a very good story at all. We have a lot of crops that we export. We are the 12th largest producer of petroleum in the world and 8th largest exporter, and has the 10th largest proven reserves in the world. We actually joined OPEC in 1971, and OPEC is a very exclusive club. If you don't have what it takes, I mean, they don't just invite you on a plate of food to come and join OPEC. They know we've got the resources, and that's why we became a member in 1971. Now, and you will know this very well, next to the petrodollars, the second biggest source of foreign exchange earnings for Nigeria are remittances that are sent home by Nigerians that are living abroad, me inclusive. I mean, one thing you have to understand about the country, about us, in culture, is that family is key. We're very closely knitted with our family. I mean, I've got my mom, I've got my siblings back home, and I've got to send money to them at the end of every month for them to live on. I mean, that's just the way we did it. Because when I was growing up, they sacrificed everything to make sure that I am what I am today, so we don't forget our senior citizens. And that is, I can understand if you don't understand that, if you don't grasp that concept, because here there is social security system. Right? Now, what we lack in Africa is the existence of a social security system. I mean, you're basically on your own. You have to provide for yourself. So there's nothing like, if you're sick, there's nothing like Medicare. There's nothing like, there's nothing like that. So if you don't have a house on your head, you stay out, become homeless. That's as simple as that. If you don't have money to eat, well, you die of hunger. It's as simple as that. I mean, it's it's in terms of cruelty, it's next in line to the American capitalist system, because it's very similar in America as well, which was what Obama was trying to change last time from through his Obamacare. You know, some countries just don't care about the less fortunate members of the society, which is really bad. I mean, we have it really pretty good in Australia. So, in 2014 alone, 17.5 million Nigerians reside in foreign countries, with the UK and the US having more than 2 million Nigerians each. Just imagine the whole population of Queensland, just one country. And according to the International Organization for Migration, Nigeria witnessed a dramatic increase in remittances sent home from overseas, going from $2.3 billion in 2014 to 17.9 billion in 2007. That represents 6.7% of our GDP. So it's a very big thing. We work very hard at whatever we do, but guess what? We share that money with the family. That's why no matter how hard we work, we are never rich. And in terms of telecommunications, Nigeria has one of the fastest growing telecommunications market in the world. Major emerging market operators like MTN, Etisalat, these are names that you'll not be familiar with here. They're basing their largest and most profitable centers in Nigeria as we speak. And Nigerian government has recently begun, expanding its infrastructure to space-based communications to help us, solve the communications problem we have in the country. Nigeria actually has a space satellite which is monitored at the Nigerian National Space Research and Development Agency, headquartered in Abuja. Can you imagine that? Nigeria has a highly developed financial sectors with a mix of local and international banks, asset management companies, brokerage houses, insurance companies, brokers, private equity fund and investment banks. They are all there. And when we talk about mining, we have a wide array of underexploited mineral resources, which include gas, coal, bauxite, tantalite, gold, tin, iron ore, limestone, niobium, lead, and zinc. I mean, these are literally untouched. Because you know why? Because we've got gas. We've got oil. So who cares about that? I mean, it takes too much effort to bring all those out of ground. But you know what? Nigeria is prepared to partner with any company that want to invest in extracting this. Because that's another sector of our economy that we are really keen to develop. And when we talk about manufacturing, look, Nigeria has a manufacturing industry which includes leather, textile. This is made in Nigeria, and I've just told my mom to buy another 10 in different color. So that, because this is the only one I have, I've been using this now for about 10 years, and it's still like this. How many clothes can you buy from China and it will last you 10 years and it will still be looking like this? So we've got quality, and I mean no disrespect to the Chinese economy, that's not what I meant. I'm just saying, quality is quality. Now, let's talk about the government satellite. The Nigerian government has commissioned the overseas production and launch of 4 satellites. Right. The one we get to hear about is when satellites is launched in the US, it's launched in the UK. That's what we see in the news. The satellites are being launched by emerging nations like Nigeria. But all that is, covered up. We never hear about that. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about this because this is something that's very passionate to me. I've been an engineer myself. I know what it takes what sort of effort it takes for a country to launch a satellite. There's a satellite called the Nigerian Sat-1, which was the first satellite to be built under the Nigerian government sponsorship. It was launched from Russia on the 27th of September 2003, and it was part of the worldwide disaster monitoring constellation system. That's a Nigerian satellite. Part of the worldwide disaster monitoring constellation system. So we are up there helping the world in our own little way. And the primary objective of that satellite was to give early warning signals of environmental disaster, to help detect and control desertification in the northern part of the country. Because if you remember, I showed you the bottom, the very rich soil, in the alluvia, in the bottom of the country, but at the top, it's actually arid land, it's desert, and the condition there is not very fertile for certain kind of crop. I mean, having said that, groundnut doesn't grow in a swamp area; it grows in a very dry area. So they've got crops that grow in that part of the country as well. by all means, they're optimizing their agricultural system. So to assist in demographic planning and to establish relationship between malaria vectors, because one thing you will know is that malaria kills more people in Africa, especially in West Africa, than death itself. You know, we have children that are dying of malaria at all times, and this is something that is an issue that is very passionate in the Nigerian government, and that's part of what this satellite does is actually to monitor the migration of what we call the malaria vectors and the environment that breeds malaria, and to give early warning signals to future outbreaks of meningitis using remote sensing technology. Now, the Nigerian SAT-2, that's the second satellite that was built. It was a high-resolution Earth satellite was built by Surrey Space Technology Limited in the United Kingdom. It has 2.5 meter resolution, panchromatic, very high resolution, 5 meter multispectra, near red, green and red band, 32 meter multispectra aperture, with a ground receiving station also in Abuja. And then we have once you realize that the Nigerian SAT-2 spacecraft, the one that actually carried that satellite to the orbit, to launch it in the orbit on its own, cost about £5 million. So we're spending the money. We're not as poor as we're projected to be. So we actually launched this satellite into orbit from a military base in China. So we've been doing a lot of business with the Chinese, because the Australians are too scared to come. But I hope this will change our mind and make us consider doing businesses in Nigeria. So that's that about the economy. And now the sport. This one really excites me, because since the 1945 introduction of the Nigerian Football Federation, Nigeria has become a top soccer contender on the international stage. And I can tell you this because every Nigerian plays soccer, right, or loves soccer. I mean, I can't play anymore for obvious reasons, no stamina and all that. But they've got 3 kids, very active in soccer. My daughter, which is 12 years old, just got accepted as one of the junior players for Brisbane Roar. That's how much we love soccer. That's how much we encourage our young to play soccer. She's just 12. And you won't believe it, in April 1994, the Super Eagles actually ranked 5th in the FIFA World Rankings. I mean, what we hear about is England, Brazil, but we are number 5 in 1994. I doubt whether anybody even heard that. That's the highest ranking achieved by an African football team. And right now, we're the current African Cup of Nations champions, having won our 4th continental title in 2013. We have qualified for 4 of the last 5 FIFA World Cups. That is something. And mind you, we're playing against real opponents. We're not just playing against some non-football nation. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't want to say more than that, but we're playing against real opponents. So it's actually much more difficult for us to qualify for this World Cup than it is for the Australian national team to qualify. That's the point I'm trying to make. So let me just stop that one there, and then let's move to the other side. Yeah, okay. So that's the river I spoke to you about. And I said you will see it in another slide. So that's River Niger, and that's they meet at the center and then they flow into the Atlantic Ocean. So this is where most of our oil and gas is concentrated for good reasons, because that's where you've been having deposit for millions and millions. If you know how gas and oil, the evolution of oil and gas, you will know why it is in this area. And that's basically desert. All right. In terms of religion, even though I said I'm not going to go into religion today, but in terms of religion, Nigeria is like 50-50 divided between 40-40 between Islam and Christianity, and the remaining 20 practice the local traditional religion. Or even 10%. I think that figure has gone down because of the influence of Christianity and all that. A lot of people are getting converted. So the Christians mostly live in the southern part, and the Muslims lives in the north. And a very small portion, very, very small, this area is where Boko Haram is trying to convert to Sharia law. So all the news, all what the media has been focusing on is what is happening in this tiny bit, less than 1/100 of the entire population. So this is where they've been focusing on. So those Boko Haram are just here. This is where the 200 and whatever girls were kidnapped and all that and all this is happening. And largely you know what's happening in the other part of the world. But I can understand that. I mean, it's part of the strategy. If the news isn't scary enough, people don't buy the papers. So that's fine. I have no problem with that. And then you can see, I spoke about agriculture. That's the Nigerian National Assembly in Abuja, where we make our laws. And this artifact you're looking at, they're quite they date back to centuries. This one dates back to 16th century. This is 12th century. I actually had the opportunity of seeing this in the museum because I graduated from a university that is located in Ife, and I went to the museum and see this. I mean, you can actually feel it when you're looking at it and you think it's alive. That's how enigmatic it was. So I've already said something about this in terms of our culture. One thing about Nigeria is that we are very hierarchical in culture, in status, right? Now, in Nigeria, I won't look you in the face and call you by the first name. I have to put Mister, right? Because there's just that. We're raised to respect our elders because we believe that age means wisdom, and that's not something that should be taken for granted. And that's why today, Lawrence and I are very close because, I took him as a friend, as a business partner, but what I enjoy most from him is his wisdom. And I tell him, he reminds me of my dad, most time annoying, and but hey, what can you do to your dad? Your dad is your dad. So that's Lawrence, and what I enjoy most in him is the wisdom. I enjoy the wisdom. When he talk, I whip up my note with my pen because I want to write things down. Because the things he talks about are not things that I can learn in books. And that's what we are. We respect the elders. And that's something that is quite different that I've seen is quite different in the culture here. We have a very strong family principles. I've already covered that. Strong personal belief of past events. We actually use past events as an indication of what might happen in the future, and to a large extent, that's been really true. I told you about the popular thinking that we remind ourselves of a gun. What does that mean? And then we've been thinking about that and following the development in the world, and realize that it actually means good things, and it's happening now. We have a very high respect for religious etiquette. Look, when it's time to go pray, especially in the north, the man might be counting $1 million. He will leave it and go pray. He's going to pray. He doesn't care what happens to that anymore. So it's. I find that a bit strange myself, but that's how much respect people have for religion. And traders are seen as a source of wealth creation. I did mention that if you have a product that sells for just 1 cent, imagine selling that among a population of 170 million that are so close by. We talk about the population. Spoke about the fact that Nigeria is just 1/4 of Queensland. Now, if you imagine that we have 6 states in Australia, this is just one of the states, and this state is 4 times the size of Nigeria. So you can begin to imagine, what we're talking about. That's Lagos, 10 million, going to 20. Just our, capital territory. I told you this. I mentioned earlier on that this is Nigeria. What Canberra is to Australia. And look, we enjoy village life, right? You won't believe it, but when I get home, right, the place I feel at peace most is when I'm among my people, right? Because this is where we grow up. This is where I grew up. I make no bones about that, and I'm proud of what I've achieved today. I've come from here to here, so we're proud of who we are. Now let me talk a little bit about the Second World War, because Nigeria was actually a very strategic country during the Second World War, especially for the Americans. As you see here, because there is one of the big theaters of the Second World War was Libya, where Admiral Romney was prosecuting his war against the Russians. And America will ship, these are warships, berthed in Lagos on Lagos Island, right? So they are we call it ordinance. Had that name, that term first from Lawrence. So I went to check it out. So ordinance is like okay, they move here, they fill up the cargo because there's oil here, there's gas, there's all the amenities, and then they go out to prosecute the war. So Nigeria was a very, very strategic point during the Second World War, and actually was very, very helpful in making sure that the Allies succeeded in their campaign, their desert campaign in Libya. I don't like war, so I'm not going to talk more about that. Okay, so banking, oil and gas, medical, marriage, because one of the greatest ills of this society is the rate of divorce. You see people that have lived together for 30 years, come on, and they are separating after 30 years. I've been married for only 16 years. I don't see myself surviving 1 year without this family network that I've built. So, and that thing is killing this society. It's ripping the society apart from within, But it doesn't happen in Nigeria, Once you are married, you're married. And that's why marriage is for better, for worse. But I think marriage in some other part of the world is for better only. Once the wars start coming in, everybody, splits apart. It doesn't happen there. That's why I put that in, because that's something that's very passionate to me. Marriage. I hate to see, family breakup. Yeah, it's a little bit about how colorful we are. You can see what I'm wearing. It's colorful, and I know you like it. So it's a bit about our ladies. We're always colorful anywhere we are. And one thing about Nigeria is, I think it was 2 years ago or so, there was an NGO that conducted. They had an index for happiness level, and actually Nigeria ranked as top 2 or top 3 happiest nation on earth. Now, how did we rank? I know how we rank, but I'm not going to say anything about that. How can we rank what we rank in Australia despite all these things we have? The weather is so good, everything is so good. So there's that thing about the way we see life, because we don't take life for granted. We see it as a gift, and every day is Christmas for us.
What's the crop up there? What
that's
tomatoes.
That's tomatoes. Yeah, that's tomatoes, and that's this market is similar to what you call West End market. People just gather.
I suppose it's coffee.
Oh yeah, we have coffee and cocoa. Cocoa used to be our largest export before we discover oil. Then everybody discover oil, and nobody wants to work on farm anymore. So yeah, but we are getting back to the agriculture now, because we realize how foolish we are leaving agriculture behind. And agriculture now is, like I said, is employed as we speak 70% of the workforce back home. And very beautiful scenic areas, Olumo Rock, just go to a travel agent and tell them to tell you places to visit in Nigeria, and I tell you, you will not want to come back here. Yeah, I've spoken about our languages. I've spoken about the countries that border us. So 500 languages as at the last count. Now, so I did mention that we do have some parallels with Australia. What do we have in common? Overnight, our currencies begin to look like Australian currency as well. So actually, it was the Australian Reserve Bank that was given the contract to produce our notes. So if you get to
plastic.
Yes, so if you get to Nigeria and you think, oh, wait a minute, you have Aussie dollars here.
What is the rate of exchange to the dollar?
Good question. Right now, as of yesterday, because I did, some exchange yesterday. As of yesterday was 178 naira to $1.
78.
Yeah, but if you go to the black market, instead of going to the bank, you will pay about 200 and 205 naira to $1.
And what is the minimum salary?
Yeah, all right. I'll give you my own example, because I was working in Nigeria.
You are not on the minimum salary, are you?
Well, look, When you talk about minimum wage in Nigeria is about, minimum wage in Nigeria is about, I think about 50,000 naira. 50,000 naira. So if you convert that to dollars, just divide by 200, that's about 2,500 dollars. Right? But mind you, this is a country where the cost of living, when they hear what I pay in mortgage, what's going on, because that's actually enough to buy 3 houses in Nigeria. What I pay as mortgage here per month, So it's all, it's all relative, right? If you go to Nigeria with $2, right, you probably have enough food for the whole family and still more left. But here, I mean, if you want to do that in a good restaurant, you know how much your pocket will be set back with. So it's all relative. I mean, I was in the UK we went on holiday to the UK, went to Stonehenge swimming over the Christmas period and New Year. And that was my first time of flying through Indonesia. And I got to Indonesia and they said, oh yeah, because you are landing in Jakarta and you take a flight to Denpasar in Bali, it's considered a local flight, so we have to give you a visa. And I said, well, I'm just going back home, I'm not staying in Bali. I said, yeah, but that's even okay. How much is it? They said 300 million, what's the?
Higher, isn't it?
Yeah, whatever. I said 300 million? So, because I didn't know that, I have to ask for the exchange. It turned out to be $25 or something like that. So, but the funny thing, that's not the funniest. The funny thing was my son, right, we now said, okay, because we're going to have 8 hours stopover I've got a family of 5, so I have to look for the cheapest ticket. And when you look for cheap ticket, you be prepared to sleep in so many places. So we have 8 hours stopover in Denpasar before we connected the flight to Brisbane, and we went to buy water. Okay, and they said, how much is water? They said 500,000 whatever krona or whatever. So we bought it, and all of a sudden my 9-year-old has so much cash in his hand. So he was probably with excitement that Dad, I can actually put all this in my bank. I said, but that's only $1. So yeah, so it's relative, because people are living very well in Indonesia despite that, unbelievable.
Excuse me, sorry.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Because I am a teacher, I'm interested about education.
Correct.
Is education compulsory, and also what's the literacy?
Good. Now, Nigeria is one of the most literate countries in the world. As of the last count, we have about 45 universities in the country, and we're not talking about polytechnics. And it is very, very compulsory that children, as from the age of 2, right, are already being sent to school. And I think that is counterproductive. And I realized that when I got here, because when we got here, when we left Nigeria, my oldest was about oldest was about 4, something like that. They were already doing arithmetic, doing real serious work. And we got to press. They said, how old is he? We said, oh, just put him in the class, and all he was doing for the next 2 years was just coloring. I said, what's happening here? Back home, our education is very similar to what you get in Singapore and the Asian and the Chinese. We put them hard from the beginning.
Because in Cuba they have 100%. Everybody knows how to read and write. Did you know that? Yeah. And they have for the best education, especially in medicine. This is why they say medical teams everywhere in the world.
So are you from Cuba?
And they have even sent to Africa.
Are you from Cuba?
No.
Okay. Well,
But I have been to Cuba.
Okay. Let's not forget the emergence of Cuba, because let's not forget the alliance between Cuba and the Russians, right? Let's not forget what happened within that period. How America alienated Cuba because of the communism, and how they decided that, look, we will do it without you. When you are being pushed, when there's a reason to do something, you do it. You want to show the enemy that, look, we can do it without you. We can go, and that's exactly being that close to America. Cuba had no choice than to be self-sufficient. So yeah, in Nigeria, the literacy rate will be up in the 70-80%. Yeah, that's not bad for a country that only just got independent in 1960. So, but like I said, in 1960 when we got independent, I think we had about 4 universities, but now we have 45 universities. And then the next question you ask me is, what's the cost of education like? You know, and it goes back to the same thing that we're talking about. And I'm going to tell you, because the only thing we hear about African leaders is corruption. All right. Now, I don't support corruption, but let me put it in perspective to you. Here, when I first arrived, I enrolled for my master's in oil and gas engineering at the University of Western Australia. Right. For the first time in my life, I found myself just going to school, not paying anything, because Commonwealth was doing it, and they said, well, if I wanted to read up to PhD level, I don't have to pay anything. So, wow. I went to the hospital. Oh, they said, you have Medicare card? Yes. What's the number? Okay. When we finish, I said, how much is it? No, Medicare. Wow. You know, I went to, I sent the children to school. I was expecting the school fees, you know, primary school. I was expecting the school fees to come. Oh, I had to call the headmaster. Please, we haven't seen school. No, just the compulsory contribution of $10 for the, wow, you know. So my love for money naturally died because I don't need all that money to survive anymore, all of a sudden. So I started thinking like the Western world. Now, back home, like I said before, if you want to send your child to the best school, it's cash. If you need a car, it's cash. If you need a house, it's cash. There's no mortgage. Mortgage is just coming into the system now. So that explains why anybody finds himself in a position of power. They want to grab as much as possible of that so that when they leave, they can guarantee their life. So in a way, logically we can explain why that corruption is that right in that part of the world, and why it will always be like that. Because we are all human beings. Now, turn the situation around. Here, let's say you go to the hospital, you need money. Like Abbott was only trying to introduce $5 or whatever. See how much fight gave him. You can't do that. Just $5, you know, co-payment. We can't take that. Now imagine if you have to go to the hospital here. When you get to the hospital, you have to buy your needle when you are coming, buy your blanket when you are coming, buy your pad when you are coming, buy everything when you are coming before the doctor will see you, and you deposit your money before the doctor will see you. So imagine what our mindset about money will have been. So we are very, very fortunate in this environment where we are, and we can never imagine. When we talk about corruptions, we can never imagine what others are facing. So, and having said that, I'm not saying I support corruption, but I can understand why that is endemic. It's as endemic as it is in Africa. I like the fact that you guys have all kept calm and you've all loved Nigeria. Now I can see it in your faces. No, I can see it. You know, when you first came, it's different. Yeah, it tells me something about 3 C's. Cool, calm, collected, and concise. That's another wisdom I learned from him, Lawrence. So, anyway, here we are. What have we done today? I've learned a little bit about you, learned about where you come from and what you know about Nigeria. You know a little bit about me, where I've come from. So now I'm no longer like an iceberg that you are seeing on the surface of the river. Because you listen, because you were interested, you find a little bit about what's below the surface. We talk about some meat, right? And we talk about some fat, and how meat are changing to fat and fat are changing to meat. And we talk about some peculiar facts about Nigeria. So we talk about the culture, we talk about the economy, we've talked about the sport. And we've drawn some parallels with Australia. Now at this point, and I know you have a lot of questions, and feel free, because I did say religion, politics, another interesting fact will come another day, but feel free, ask any question, because then that will tell me what to prepare for next time when I'm talking to you and addressing you about Africa. Very many thanks for listening, and once again, I appreciate you, being able to speak to real Australians who has been out. One thing that we feel about Australia, and I can say this from experience because I've been here 9 years, and I've been so unlucky to always be the only black man in the team, right? And I've seen a lot of uneducated Australians, put it that way. Not because you're not educated simply because you went to school. but because they've not traveled out, they don't know what obtains out there. You know, their view of life is so narrow, and you know, you find it very difficult to break that view. Now, the faces I'm seeing here are faces of people that have very wide horizon, that have very open mind, and you know, that's the key to success in the 21st century business environment and in the 21st century world, I believe in. Thank you once again, and yeah, I'll take questions.
No, can I ask a question? Just, my culture, the men wear the suits and thing called a tie.
Yeah.
I'm most interested in your outfit because just the development, and it is a beautiful, but is that it, like, what do you call it? And
Okay.
yeah, a bit of a history would be interesting.
Yeah, this is. Am I on camera now?
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. Now it's time, because we're showmen in Nigeria. Yeah? Time to do some showmanship now. All right. Now I'm happy that you like it. Everybody loves it because I love it myself. And like I said, we spend time. If you get in my house, right? Me and my wife, we're always competing for the mirror. We probably spend more time. We love ourselves. We love life, right? If you see my shoe rack, it's about 3 times that of my wife, right? Yeah, you can see the gold and all that. We love life. We love to enjoy, because life, we see it as a gift. Now, we have no time for depression. We have no time for sadness. Now, what you're looking at here is what you call agbada. You know, just as it sounds, it's called agbada. Now, agbada is a very, very popular attire among Nigerians, especially in the south and in the north. Now, in the east, we have the Igbos. Now, if I have an Igbo man here, the way he will dress will be different. Very beautiful, very different. He will tie something that looks like a woman's wrapper, and he will have his stick. And when he talks, his voice will be, you know. We have very, very rich culture. Now, I come from this part of Nigeria called. Okay, let's close this. Now, I come from the part of Nigeria called Yoruba. Now, we Yorubas are here from Lagos down to this side, you know. That's where we are, right? This is where we are. Then we have the Igbos in the east, and then we have the Hausas in the north. Don't forget that I mentioned that those are the 3 key languages. Those are the key 3 tribes. But we have about 500 different tribes, you know. Even among the Yorubas, there are some Yorubas that will speak my language, but I can't understand because their accent is totally different. So that's how dynamic we are. And that's what makes us, you know, as as diverse as we are. So in this part of the country, we like agbada. You know, no Yoruba man is complete without his agbada when he's going out. You know, and you will see, for no reason, you're walking, they still do like this, no, because you want to keep the action going. You know, the fact that you are able to do this, you know, means a lot, right? So that's in here, and then as you can see, this is called fila. It's a kind of cap, not face cap. If you wear face cap with this, people will run away from you in Nigeria. So, and you can see what I'm wearing under. I can't show you more than this. You can see what I'm wearing under. This comes in different fashion. You have one that is just short sleeve. You have one that is long sleeve like this. Now, people in the north, they like the long sleeve a lot because of the sun. You know, they got to cover their skin. Now, we in the south like, you know, the short sleeve a lot. But because I'm in Australia and, you know, we have a very big hole in the ozone on top of it, so I wear this as well. You know, I prefer the long sleeve because there is a myth that a black man doesn't suffer from skin cancer. It's a lie. It's a myth. I cover my. I don't want to be the one that will prove that myth wrong. so that's why I wear this. I love this. I mean, of course, I don't go out every day like this. But now that I have my own company, I can't walk into the office like this. I have to dress. But now that I have my own company, I tell you what, I'll dress like this every day, all right? Because it's what's in here and not what I'm wearing that matter. So take note, John. so that's what it is, and it doesn't cost much to own. It's actually very cheap, and like I said, I've been using this for 10 years. Been washing it all the time, and look at the color; it doesn't fade. It still stands.
Excuse me, is it cotton?
Yeah, it's cotton. Yeah, it's cotton.
Yeah, good quality.
Yeah, it's good quality. It's good quality. I'm actually, like I said, I've told my mom because I'll be visiting home in August, to get a lot, and then when I get home, give it to a tailor and so, and then I'll come back with. So that is agbada. Now, I mentioned about how Igbos like to dress, and then there are some peculiar dresses among the Hausas as well. But we've all sort of, thank you very much. We've all sort of borrowed, from each other, and yeah. So, is there any other question at this point? Feel free, and if you have any other question that you remember, later just talk to Lawrence. Lawrence will pass them on. I was just telling somebody that I see white wearing parachute. Have you ever seen anybody looking this good in parachute before?
I was just interested because you would have had a cotton industry then, or you import the cotton?
Oh, no, we have a cotton industry. It's part of what I mentioned about the textile industry. So we have our own textile. We make everything in there, in Nigeria.
But you worked in the oil business, didn't you?
Yes.
Surely you don't wear that sort of gear when
Oh, if you wear this in the oil, if the compressor catches this, you are gone because, it's very tough as well. You can't.
you don't run around like that.
No.
You do oil rigs or?
Oh no, yeah, you can't wear this in oil rig. That we consider an HSC.
What do you do on the land or on the sea?
Oh yeah,
Where
well,
it come from?
we have I mentioned about the alluvials here, the deposit. Now, that richness actually doesn't just start here. It starts from when the water starts slowing down.
Yeah.
So you have some deposits that are actually on land. So we have a lot of land rig. All right, but you all know.
All right.
Yeah. So
But you don't get any out of the ocean.
Oh, we do.
Okay.
Oh, we do. Because, we always go for the low-hanging fruits. They've been exploring the land-based reservoir for the
Do you do
past.
fracking?
Oh, no, we don't do fracking.
You don't.
We don't do fracking. We don't have a lot of the issues because we don't have coal seam gas, we don't have shale. We don't have shale system. The shale system and the coal seam gas, they are not as mature. We have really matured, system. All right? The reason they do fracking here is because the play, we call it play in the oil and gas industry, is not as mature as. Okay.
We'll just take one more, yeah? One more.
Given that the economy is very strong,
Yeah.
and you don't have a social welfare system,
Mm-hmm.
where does the wealth go? I mean, obviously a lot goes into private wealth, but does a fair amount go into infrastructure, or is that not happening?
Well, look, I'll be upfront with you. I won't stand here and tell you that it's all happening. And we do realize that we have a lot still to do. Within the past, you have to, and we didn't talk about the politics of Nigeria because we said we'll do that next time. But we had a period after independence where we were ruled by military juntas, by the soldiers, right? And you know what I mean when I say the soldiers. Look at Campbell Newman, for crying out loud, Soldiers they're just administrators, they're not politicians, right? We were ruled by soldiers for decades, right? We only just came back to democracy less than few years ago. And since we got back into democracy, you can see the massive development in infrastructure. So infrastructure now is being developed. I spoke about the satellite and all that. All this were done during the civilian period, during the democratic dispensation. Nothing happened during the military regime. So actually, this is the time for anybody that wants to invest in the country to come in, because now we've had this stable democratic structure now for 15 years, and the military has been put in its place, right? To just look after the territorial integrity of the country, and politics is what we will do forever. So it's just starting now. Now it's time for anybody that is interested in investing to come in.
And you have elections coming up soon.
Yeah, we have elections. Actually, it was supposed to have happened in February, but we thought the people were not ready for it. The voters card, there were a whole lot of things hanging on that. So we've moved it now to 28th of March.
let's wind up from that. On behalf of you three, there you go. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Most times annoying, sometimes funny. See what he did to me just now. But that's
Very
like that.
Thank you. See you later. Very
you
good.
very much.
Okay, thank you guys.
I will never, I will never, I will never, I will never